The Mother and Sri Aurobindo have done what they came to do, to establish a new consciousness upon earth. They have created the ground, the matrix for the next evolution of man into the superhumanity of tomorrow. But as we said yesterday, that if we enter into the utopia and we are not ready for it, we will not even understand, we will not be able to live in that. So there is needed from our side an effort. They have built the bridge, we have to walk on the bridge. And the minimum that is needed to walk this path, a bare minimum, which sometimes can be really more than enough, the Mother says that, is faith. She speaks of particularly two things, faith and gratitude. Just to know that the divine exists, to know that He is there to help us. We are not alone on this great, tremendous, difficult, dangerous, delightful journey. He walks with us, holds us, carries us through all the trials and tribulations of life. There are countless reasons to be grateful. The fact that we breathe means we have a chance. We wake up in the morning. It's so beautiful to start the day with gratitude that we have yet another day when we can cover some distance on this great journey. And gratitude itself opens the doors. And then faith. She says there is a whole section of humanity which doesn't know anything. It doesn't know about all the things that we talk about, supermind, levels of consciousness, all this. But by the fact that they have faith of the divine sacrifice in matter, it be redeemed. So this is something very tremendous. We don't realize the power of faith. And we have to guard it like a most sacred treasure. It's a gift of grace. I sometimes wonder how do people manage their life when they don't have faith. It can be terrible. So we have to guard it like a sacred treasure. And Sri Aurobindo speaks of faith as the pilgrim staff, when we are walking in utter darkness. So there is not even the torchlight. So what do? We have a lathi, staff. So this is a wonderful thing. It's a support. It is also, when you do cut, many animals will just go away. But they know somebody is walking the path. It is also good to feel the things which are around you. So faith is the pilgrim staff on the journey and the surest guide in the darkest days. It leads us right to the doors of knowledge. The time comes when faith melts into knowledge. Then we don't need faith because we have the knowledge. Of course, one must understand that the word knowledge, like the word love, like the word will, mean very different things in yogic terminology. Knowledge from the yogic standpoint is not book knowledge, it's not intellectual knowledge, it's not academic knowledge. All these things may prepare the ground for the knowledge. But knowledge can come without any of these things, and knowledge may not come even after we have read all the scriptures in the world. This has been the well-known mystic truth, and Sri Aurobindo says the same thing. It's not something which we don't understand. So reading books is a great help because it tills the ground. It prepares us. But in itself, it should not be mistaken for knowledge. Knowledge is a direct vision of the One. It comes when oneness dawns upon us. And when that dawns, we discover that all that the books describe and all the books in the world, all that they have written, has been written and spoken about the eternal, actually is very little. I won't say nothing. Compared to the actual glimpse, it's the glory of glories. So, it's very good to read books. It's good to hear. It's good to listen. It's good to read, but this knowledge must be translated into real-time practice. This reading and this intellectual preparation must be translated into real-time practice. That's how understanding comes. It doesn't come by constantly churning this knowledge into our heads like a piece of information. It's not that. Sri Ramakrishna would say that if there is water and you churn water, you won't get butter out of it. If you churn makhan, then butter, then what is it? Churn, then milk, then you will get nice clarified butter out of it. You won't get just by churning water. So this, all that we read and hear, and then we discuss, debate, analyze, compare, contrast, it will not give knowledge. That's for sure. When we read, then we steadily apply it with faith in the divine wisdom, in the divine leading. A faith which is very logical, that He who has brought me thus far will carry me further. And while we may think that we are all, here because we made a choice, we paid up, we signed up, somebody told us, even little children from Surat, you may think that, you are here because you are doing internship. It's not true. That is an outer reason, excuse. You are here because something within you has been picked up and you are here. And that something's purpose is far deeper than whatever superficial understanding of things may be. So we may come for different reasons, different causes, but it doesn't matter. Divine can use any outer excuse for something much more profound and deeper. So reading is a help, but reading can become an hindrance if we regard it as an end in itself. The Gita and Sri Aurobindo in Synthesis of Yoga cautions us, Sri Aurobindo reminds us of the Gita, Shabd Brahmati Vartate, go beyond the written word. And he says that the sadhaka of the integral yoga may find one book, many books, depending on his stage of evolution, depending on his background. It could be the Gita, the Bible, or any book, scripture, as a starting point of entry. And even though these books may be helpful, he says, but he is not a sadhaka of a book, he is a sadhaka of the infinite. So that is the important thing to remember. True understanding comes when we walk the path. True understanding comes when we do, rather than only think about it. Thinking is a first step, but doing is knowing. So what is to be done? So much Mother and Sri Aurobindo has spoken about it. Sri Aurobindo summarizes it in one word, utsaha. The keenness of the disciple to learn. They have given us infinity. Most of these books I have seen, it's a sad sight. Lying in libraries of devotees, disciples, centers. I wondered why. So the one idea is very difficult. It's not true. It may be true to an extent of a book like The Life Divine and the Human Cycle, though actually if we read it with a seeker's heart, Sri Aurobindo's writings are very direct. Then we have the entire conversations with the mother. So simple. Letters on yoga, extremely simple. And when we read, they are meant for that. Sri Aurobindo has given it as a, it doesn't matter what we are doing in our everyday life, practice. We are in the field of healing. So much they have given about the truth behind healing, how, healing takes place and they have given us entire divine vision of life. Truth behind relationships, truth behind material energies and forces with which we deal with, truth behind astrology, truth behind religion, truth behind sleep and dream and waking, truth behind eating food. Everything we are doing all the time. Why not do it with a deeper vision of things? And they have lent their eyes to us. Sri Aurobindo literally, in a sense, lost his outer eye because he wanted to give sight to us. Literally, writing, typing. In those days, we didn't have that thing. And then he would see, but with the eye of consciousness. And we don't even feel it necessary to, read a book. And it doesn't need any, we are going anywhere, we can just carry a book. It can change our lives. We don't realize its power. I know of a disciple whose wife was, had turned towards Mother and Sri Aurobindo because she came from a family of very deep devotees. And she would tell her husband, because husband did not sympathize with her journey. So she used to tell him that don't give me costly saris and anything. He was a rich man. Just give me money to go to Pondicherry. That's all I need. Time to time I want to go there. And he said, okay, but don't go for too many days. So she didn't want to annoy him. So she would say, okay, I'm going to my parents' place. And parent knew, so she would go. She would say, I'm going for 20 days to parents' place and 2 days to Pondicherry, but the whole thing was reversed. It was 2 days at parents' place and 20 days at Pondicherry. This man was carrying on, it's okay, usual life. One day he was traveling from Pune to Bombay, and he wanted to, some book you pick up, to read on the way. So generally he would pick up a magazine, and that day, because he was really getting late, and he told his wife, give some book, something I want to read. And then he pulled out, not realizing what he's pulling out, the Mother. Sri Aurobindo, the Mother. He said, okay, what is it? Like, you read a tabloid, the Mother. Put it in the suitcase. Okay, I'll read on the way. And he says that book changed his life. It's a small book, 62 pages. It's a small book. And he read it and it changed his life. He came back a changed person. He completely gave up all the old habits. He became more keen to now not only send her but himself to go. So we don't realize the impact of how powerful it can be, and when the time will come, when the revelation will take place, and that's how we should read. If we don't understand, it's okay. How time is slipping by. Sometimes I feel it's so frightening. People enter there, what in India is called as Vanaprastha. They're still busy with all the usual things in life, knowing that the end is going to be do gaj zameen ke niche or, Agni, Swaha. It doesn't require much to, it's there. And yet, one continues. And then one wants Kurvan Neve Karman. Is a mistranslation of this great truth. Knowing that the Vasudeva is here in the world. But it's like, I must pull on somehow. I must manage my life. How much can I enjoy like the mythical king Yayati, who even asked his son's youth to enjoy life. Famous Pururava who says, okay, you take by half of my life and you enjoy. So this is, at some point, time is slipping by and there's very little time. Actually, we as human beings, we don't realize it. So we try to run away, go here, there, partying, spending, thinking that, it's going to, but it doesn't buy us happiness. It's something very temporary and momentary. So, knowing all that, we must put all of ourselves into this journey. That is the utsaha of the disciple. But Sri Aurobindo also cautions that this utsaha must be without vyakulta. Vyakulta is, when will I have the experience, when will I? Our work is our work and the divine's work is divine's work. So our work is to make a bonfire of our entire being. Divine work is to do what he does with the bonfire. It's a purifying process one has to go through. And in this process, two things which are, Sri Aurobindo speaks of as an indispensable basis, the very first foundations on which we have to build these, not only new creation, but the deeper spiritual life without which it cannot be built, is peace and equanimity. Indispensable foundations. Now, equanimity may not be needed in a pure Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. But the moment you speak about Karma Yoga or in Yoga which is life engaging, life transforming like Sri Aurobindo, equanimity is a must. And if we look at it, every day, 24 hours, countless opportunities the grace gives us to practice this. Sometimes the weather will not be according to our likings, and sometimes the food. Sometimes the people with whom we are sharing our journey may not be those whom we wish to. Sometimes we may be tagged along with someone who has no sympathy for our journey. Divine play, enjoy it. Sometime we will be, looking at everybody's defects except our own. These were opportunities to practice equanimity. Sometimes somebody will come and pass a very critical remark just when we want to hear a compliment. Wonderful opportunity, and when we look upon these things, we discover, oh my God, life is a series of lost opportunities. The divine came so close. What stood between me and the divine was just this trust and equanimity. Had I taken this leap, I would have seen the revelation of grace, but I couldn't take. And then there is suffering, bitterness, complaining, grudging, grumbling, which makes things worse. Doubt, complaints, grumbling. Mother says it brings in all kinds of adverse forces in the atmosphere. Life will give what it has to give. It's our share. Everybody has to go through their own share. Pandavas were not spared. Shri Krishna was not spared. Rama was not spared. Christ was not spared. Sri Aurobindo was not spared. Who is it who has been spared? So when suffering comes, we should say, oh, we are in good company. Not that we should ask for suffering. But when it comes, we say, oh, thank you. You have thought that I am a little worthy of sharing your burden. And then don't carry it like something big. Pass it on. You know you are an old hand at it. Every time you have come, earth has given you heaps and truckloads of pain and suffering, and you have borne it with what magnanimity. Forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. I just wonder if we can't even forgive somebody who has, once upon a time said a bad word, and here is someone from the cross saying this. I mean, these are such inspirations. Look at the life of Buddha. That's why one of the things that I recommend always when people ask, what should we read? Life Divine, Synthesis of Yoga, isn't it? All the volumes everybody has by heart. So I recommend read the life of Sri Aurobindo. Not the lives of Sri Aurobindo, but the life of Sri Aurobindo, to be sure. Of course, you have to be careful in choosing a biography. There is no doubt about it. But one of the biographies which I recommend strongly is Rishabh Chand's Sri Aurobindo, His Life Unique. Another one, Sri Aurobindo or the Adventure of Consciousness in the Western context especially. Then a third one, 12 Years with Sri Aurobindo. Read the stories of these disciples, and I can tell you, if you read Rishabh Chand's book, for example, you will know about yoga. You don't have to, what should we do? You'll look at Sri Aurobindo's life. Look at Mother's life. How they have lived their life, and we'll know what yoga is about. And it inspires. It's one way of coming close to the Lord. In Indian tradition you have this. There are books of yoga. Plenty of books. This sutra, that sutra, Brahma Sutra, Narad's Bhakti Sutra, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Shiv Sutra. Many books are there, isn't it? But what do most people read and feel inspired by? 2 books. Ramayana and Bhagavata. Strange. Why? They are stories of the life of Rama and Krishna. What happens when you read these stories? You feel close and you understand. It's a direct kind of intimacy. People often ask how to develop bhakti. Yes, bhakti is a grace. It's a crowning realization. No doubt it comes as a gift of grace, and one should ask for bhakti, faith, like one asks for any other thing. Even much more for this. We can't imagine what it means. When Krishna Prem we were talking about, he came to ashram and he met the mother, and he asked the mother something which he recounts later on with his disciples, her disciples. He said, you know what he asked? I was so touched and I was so happy. He said, give me bhakti for my guru. Mother says, but you already have it. He says, I don't yet have enough, I want more. Mother was so happy that somebody has asked for the real Kohinoor. People used to do tapasya. Read the story of Dhruv. Prahlad, Dhruv did tapasya for God knows those days when people could live for 1,000 years. I don't know, young child, little child doing tapasya. And when the Lord appears before him, he says, give me akhand avichal bhakti. Akhand is something which is unbroken. Avichal, which never wavers. Give me that love for you. As a child, when I had read it, I said, my God, he has asked this after all this tapasya. But he asked this, and he was blessed. The Lord, Dhruv and Prahlad were two unique characters whom the divine said, wherever you are, I will always be with you. Is it a joke? So the power of bhakti, ask for bhakti. But bhakti also grows when we read the stories of Mother and Sri Aurobindo and whoever we have faith in. Those stories do something to the heart. So all this helps us to grow towards that knowledge, toward that truth. In the end, these distinctions fall away. Love reveals to us, when we want to know about someone, what is the best way to know? When people go for courtship period, dating, how do they know each other? Acha, tell me, what are your likes and dislikes? What color cloth you like to wear? What are your taste and tendency? What cinema you like to watch? Nothing you will know except superficial inanities. Live with a person for 2 days, you will begin to know. And even then, much will not be revealed till you live for a long time. A husband may be appreciated by hundreds of people outside him, a big man. Ask his wife. He will say, अरे मैं जानती हूँ उसको मैं जानती हूँ अच्छा से. Why does she? And it's truth. Because she knows everything. Simply because she has lived and she has loved. Love leads to another kind of knowledge. There is a wonderful line in Savitri. When death tells Savitri, no, for knowing thou shalt cease to love. Savitri answers, when I have loved all, then I shall know. Just the reverse. She says, I know that knowledge is a vast embrace. Look the line. What is knowledge? It's not here. It's here. Knowledge is a vast embrace. I know the all is the myriad one. The many are the million-bodied one. She knows that. This is knowledge, one and oneness. And it comes by love. So, we can ask for love, we can ask for faith, we can ask for peace and equanimity. So many opportunities of equanimity. This is yoga in real time. Peace. How to call peace? Mother says, call like an idiot. Peace, 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 peace. That's why in India every time, Om Shanti, 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 Shanti. One day, Miss Shanti will think he is calling me for a long time. Let me come. And that day life will change. Because after all, the gods are listening. Shanti is a goddess. Don't ask me which pantheon. Faith is a god. Sri Aurobindo has revealed a whole list of gods which we never knew are gods. Faith is a god. There were 4 things, 4 gods or 4 powers that were pillars of immortality. And Sri Aurobindo and the mother were trying to bring them down in the early disciples. Very early. So one of them was faith, aspiration, devotion and surrender. These were the 4 pillars of immortality. So one of them was faith. And the person in whom faith was coming lost his head. It is such a tremendous power. We just don't understand. We think it's like, so faith began to come and he couldn't. He had to go away, The famous story of Tirupati and how Sri Aurobindo then, carried his journey. It's a whole. So these are gifts. So when we call peace, first aid, as a doctor, one of the things that I used to teach my students, when you have an emergency, what is the first thing you will do? So some will say whatever the number is in India now, it is 108. Good, blessed number. Or you will call, 911 is also good. 9 is material perfection and 1 is of course the divine. So call it like that. So it is, and 11 is reborn because 10 completes a cycle. So literally you are calling the divine to make you be reborn in material terms. So it's a perfect number for emergency. In India people connect with 108. So you have 108. Or people will say, I'll do this, I'll do that. One of the first things that was taught to us as doctors was reassure a patient if he is conscious. It's so important. It's a tremendous power when he goes to a doctor and says, don't worry, take care. But if doctor has serious face with sweat dripping on his forehead, patient is half dead. So its spiritual correlation is that when we are in moments of crisis, call peace, call the divine, ask for that peace and calm. Yes, it's difficult. Obviously, if we have not practiced it in our life, then it will not come because we have not plugged the wires. We have the phone, but the wire is not plugged. So you keep putting the number, nothing is happening. You have not activated the line. So every day we can call peace, all that. Whenever we feel like, call peace. So it works wonderfully. When there is a fight going on between two persons, if one person starts saying peace, peace, not like peace, peace, not peace, 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 peace. After some time, there is no point fighting with this fellow. No, because people get joy when they fight. It's a food, tasty food, spicy food. So this is the foundation of this yoga. If you see the first book that came out of letters on Sri Aurobindo's yoga, what was the book called? Basis of Yoga. It was distributed in the ashram. First chapter is calm, peace, equanimity. Basis of yoga. Food, sleep, sex, another chapter. It's like these are the foundations. How you work upon it, it will lead us towards a higher life. That's what goes in the ground of preparing us for the new race, the superhumanity of tomorrow. Then, along with this effort of the disciple and along with all these things, the most important thing is aspiration, the fire. How to light up aspiration? People have asked even these questions. Can you imagine? How to light up aspiration? Mother says, go near fire, so simple. Sri Aurobindo and the mother's books are fires. Go to ashram. People take all the way. Hasmukh Bhai was I have quoted your story in several times, I think, not here. When you spoke to Usaben and she told you that, are you coming to Pondicherry? You were in Surat, right? And you said, I don't know, I'm thinking because it's a day or 2 days or something. What did she say? Even if you can come for 1 hour. Seconds, it is worth it.
God only requires seconds.
Yes. Even if you can come for seconds, it's worth it. This is a prayer of the mother. One of the shortest prayers. A few moments spent before thee are worth centuries of felicity. Seconds. Because God doesn't require a long time to do what He has to do. And imagine, it's not just going there. It's the whole preparation. You are buying a ticket, you are going through all the process and all that. What you are doing? You are actually thinking, I am going to go there. All this is important. That's why it is said in the ancient scriptures that every step you take towards the divine, towards a tirtha, that's how it is said, pilgrimage, gives you the result of 1,000 Ashwamedh Yagna. Leaving aside the exaggeration, leaving aside the deeper sense of Ashwamedh Yagna for a moment. Even there, Ashwamedh Yagna, all the energies that you pour into the Yagna. Now this whole energy, some people are preparing for a whole year. I am going to go then. All this is going in the hundi of our, what we call as divine karmas. It is going there. It's an energy, it's an effort. It's not like, when people say, Mataji bulayenge tab aa jayenge. When mother will call, I will come. What do you mean? That mother will send a ticket? Maybe she may, God knows. But that's not the attitude of a disciple. The attitude is, okay, let me prepare. It's difficult for going from here. Even I have seen people in India, when mother calls, I will come. What is this? Thank God Sri Aurobindo has his ashram in Pondicherry. Supposing it was in Alaska, every day I feel grateful. That thank you so much you have in Pondicherry. If I can't end up feeling grateful that you have your place in Pondicherry and I am in India, it's if nothing else, I mean I have to be grateful with the last breath. Imagine if you were in Alaska, what situation I would have been. I am not bothered about others. Totally selfish gratitude. If you were in Alaska, sometimes really wonder that what life would have been, how miserable you feel. And even that is important, sometimes to increase the fires. Aspiration is a strange thing. The divine sometimes keeps you away. Let the fire grow. It's growth of the fire. It can grow any which way. And then we have to feed the fire. It's not only when we meditate, but everyday activity, offering. How does fire grow? By putting havi into it. And how do we put havi? You must have seen the yagna ritual when you put ghee. So what do you say? There is a mantra with all. Om so and so swaha. Then again you will put wood pieces. Om so and so swaha. Last is Om aham swaha. That is not said. But the point is that, I am not going into the deeper symbolism, which is very beautiful. Everything that is put, the gritam, the wood pieces, very profound. But the sum and substance of it is that when we put, Mother puts it so simply. That's the beauty of Mother's writings. What she says? There is a fire in the center of the heart. Put everything in it with the divine name. Now you see, what is it? Om so and so swaha. Divine name. So all the activities that we go through in life, Mother, take them. That's how Janina Stroka's book, Captive of Her Love, how beautiful book. She says, now I have learned the yoga after staying in ashram. I have learned the yoga. What is the yoga? She says, it is very simple. I have a headache. I tell Mother, it's your headache. My maid servant has not come. I am disturbed. So I say, Mother, it's your problem. What Mother spoke about her when she passed away. She says, she has done a work for me, shown me what the new form will be like. 9 years of stay, she could do this yoga. Polished nurse, amazing. To give to the divine. It's not like only big things and good things. Everything, good also. Good will be transformed into its true reality. Good is not what we understand as good. Karna was a good guy, but perfectly useless and even dangerous. His goodness was not good from the divine point of view. So everything that we consider as good, everything that we consider as bad, and everything in between, and all the pleasant, the unpleasant, everything we keep offering by remembering the divine name. That's how the fire grows. So this is the way it keeps on growing. And then Sri Aurobindo says that the third element and very important one is the master, the guru. Sometimes I feel I have, of course, not read the new book, but I have just heard a little bit about it. Spirituality without spirit. That is only duality. You may add duality or multi-duality. Spirituality without spirit is literally that. There are all kinds of things which are taught to us, but minus the divine. This was my problem when I used to go for seminars on psychology, integral psychology. All this used to happen. Delhi, and they would call and all this. And I stopped going after a time, and when people would ask, I said, because you guys are just skirting around the whole thing, beating around the bush. You're not talking about the core. What is the core? The divine. There is no, psychology of this kind without the divine. Are you ready to listen that there is a divine reality of our being? Oh, that is mysticism. I said, fine, then let mysticism be where it is and psychology where it is. You can't combine the two, because if you have to combine, you have to bring in. What is divine is the core, the hub, the source, the origin. How can there be, creation? It's bringing the creator into creation. It is we who divorced. It's not the creator who wanted to be away. We, by our conceptions, of, what was that called? René Descartes. And then dualism. All kinds of things. Philosophy and science. We kept the divine away. Don't meddle with us. Don't mess with our lives. We are messed up already. Okay, I am a person of retiring predisposition. You put me on somewhere in the skies on a pedestal, all right. You manage your things. So then after a while things started going into a doomsday mode. Then people say, you are to be blamed. He said, you are the guys who told me you stay there. Now you tell me that I am to be blamed. Should I come? Should I intervene? And we are still debating whether we should or we should not. That is the problem. So divine, the grace. But when we use the word divine, we should be careful that it's not our image of the divine. We have an idea of the divine. Oh, he is all loving. Meaning thereby, everything will be fine henceforward with me and my family. Sri Aurobindo reminds us that the divine lover and friend of mankind reveals himself to Arjuna, his chosen disciple, as time the destroyer. When Arjuna says, who are you? He says, Kalos mi bhava. I am time, who destroys and devotes all things. Kali, who comes, and when she comes, she is the world mother. And she just plucks our egos like, football and throws it aside. So when we call the divine, it implies surrender and trust, not an image. We play with images like we play with the world through images. But divine definitely goes beyond our images. All that mind can conceive, he goes beyond it. So implicit within, when we use the word divine, is that he knows better than what we do. Mother says a lot of problems of the world would be solved if people knew that the divine knows at least a little more than them. What are his ways? Mysterious ways. Why mysterious? Because the ego doesn't like it. Udho karman ki gati nyari. So you have this weird word called karma used in this sense. Ujjwal pankh diye bagle ko koyal ki vidikari. Why you made the bagla so fair and the koyal, who is so sweet and melodious voice, black? Now Uddhav is asking, why you have done this? Precisely to break your mental formation that fear is good. But we don't look at it like that. No, we have presumed in our mind that fear is good and black is not good. So divine breaks this formation. He says, look here, black is beautiful. But we don't want to look at it like that. We have presumed in our minds that this is how the divine should act. So there are so many ways of, understanding the divine wisdom which comes as we walk the path. Otherwise we can't. Why he gives the kingdom to Duryodhana? Precisely because that's the way to his road to his doom, faster doom. If Duryodhana never had the kingdom, he would have just continued with his jealousies and ambitions, kept on, but it was the best way, the fastest way for him to enter into that doomsday mode. So his way, and by that process rescue his soul out of that crassness. So his ways are mysterious, and he picks up, Sri Aurobindo reveals to us how the Divine Mother works in the sadhak. He says there are 3 outstanding features of this yoga. One of them is divine picks up where we are, how we are. That's why no 2 journeys are alike. Where we stand today depends on our past evolution as well as what the future is going to reveal to us, which is unique. And he picks up from there. So there are different starting points, like the same ocean, there are different people, different starting points. But regardless of what the starting point is, that fire begins to spread into the rest of our being. So we'll see that in each one there is a part which readily catches fire. In another person, that part does not open. In each one there is a part which terribly resists till the last moment. And in another person there is another part. But look at the beauty of the Lord's play. We keep on looking at the other person's shadow. And the other person is also smart. He looks at your shadow. Oh, mere devotee. They don't know. Going to Samadhi, putting their head, is transformation going to come like this? I have heard people say that. But those who put their head at the Samadhi are also smart. Oh, this fellow, he thinks that just by reading books he is going to get transformed. Both are fighting. And somebody is laughing out there, having good laugh. The beauty is you can combine all these things. It's not either or. Why do we take this position? I don't understand. All this goes on together. Read a book, meditate, contemplate, have bhakti, go to the samadhi, do works for the divine. Why limit oneself to this way or that way? This is how the mind operates. It takes a path. I'll stick on to that. Do everything that one can do. It's a joy, it's a delightful, it's an integral journey. These things we do because it's we don't realize. They are unconscious resistances. The book reader has resistance to surrender because why? The ego. Basically it's arrogance. Mother says, why do men don't pray? Says basically if they look inside, it's arrogance. So what do I do? How do I justify? Oh, prayer is something which is inferior. Oh, prayer. Oh, those peasants and those people who don't have this developed mind, they go and pray. They don't understand divine is this and that. Those who pray, they know that you are making a fool of yourself. How much joy and revelation. But we can combine both. It's not this or that. This is an integral yoga. Meditate, love, call the divine's name, serve the divine, read, think, pray, everything. Every which way meet the divine. Then when we take that approach, then a time comes when the divine master, whom we are seeking outside, awakens within. Then life begins to change. There is a Zen saying, which has its own truth. Zen has a way of saying things. When the disciple is ready, the master appears. Good. When the disciple is truly ready, the master disappears. Now you keep figuring out where does he go. Why does he disappear? Disappeared is a way of saying he is in us. He is in us. It doesn't mean then again either or. Oh, now mother is inside me, so I don't need to go and bow before picture. No, you will do it with even more joy because now you know whom you are bowing to. She who is within is also outside. People ask me then, when you discover the divine within, you don't need to go to samadhi and bow. I said, who told you? Surely you have not discovered the divine within. That's why you are telling it. He says, but how? What is it? This is the purpose. I said, no, try to figure it out like this. You love your girlfriend, boyfriend or whatever. Yes. So do you carry a picture? Do you like to, well, why do you carry a picture? Love is enough. No, it adds to the joy. I said, exactly. It adds to the joy. Sri Aurobindo says something very interesting in one of his letters when he is asked, why is surrender to the Guru outwardly, who is a representative of the divine, regarded as the surrender of surrenders? Kabir Das told this in a very nice way. Guru Gobind, dau khade kako lagu pao. The Guru, the Master, and the Lord. Here Gobind is not just Krishna, but Lord. Both are standing. Whose feet should I touch first? Now you see the dilemma. So he says, Balihari Guru aapki jin Gobind diyo bataye.
Say that in English.
Yes, I am going to. He says, the Guru, the Master, and the Lord. You see, Master takes us to the Lord. Now a time comes when the Master is there and the Lord, both are there. So he says, whose feet should I touch first? Whom should I bow first? He says, of course to the Master. It is because of His grace that I have known the Guru. I have known the Lord. So my gratitude is to Him first. And there is a deep truth in it. This was asked to Sri Aurobindo. Why? These are things which go on in certain context of thought. Oh, it's okay, Sri Aurobindo, now, basically inside the divine is there, mother is there, Shakti is there, supramental is there, everything is there. Though I don't know anything about anything, but that's in bracket and parenthesis. So what is the point? Why have pictures? Why put up? So Sri Aurobindo was asked this question. Fortunately, we have answers to all this. That why is surrender to the Guru known as surrender of surrenders? Sri Aurobindo says, because when we bow down to the Guru and surrender to the Guru, we surrender not only inwardly, but also our outer being participates in the surrender. That's why one physically bows down, and that's why one does this, and that's why one lies at the mother's feet. Because the outer body, we deprive it, and we talk about integral yoga. We are depriving it. The joy of lying at the mother's feet. She speaks of this 3 types of surrender. Otherwise, it says chatpat. After a while, it says, okay, this fellow is useless. He will not make me also have the joy. Inwardly, he is happy, but I don't know what it means to really lie down at the divine's feet. See how beautiful. It's not either or. The mind has this weird tendency of reducing everything to either or. Surrender inside, that's definitely important. That's the most important thing. But also surrender outside. Why the body should be deprived? So this is a total, everything. It's an all-embracing, all-inclusive journey. And the final thing that Sri Aurobindo says, that after you have done all this, the last thing is time. It takes time. Rome was not built in a day. A new creation is not built in a lifetime. So we should not be like, when will I get the experience? When will I have this? How does it matter? It's a wonderful journey. Imagine if divine came physically and told us, I want to sign up for a divine project. Are you going to read all the clause, subclause and all this? Oh, the soul said, I sign up for it. Divine, he is giving us a project. After everything is over, his chief accountant comes and says, you know what you have signed for? I shouldn't say chief accountant, the secretary comes. Secretaries are mysterious people, You don't know what they are really conveying, which side they are. So the secretary comes and says, you know what you have signed up? Have you read all the thing? What is that? Divine is coming. He has asked me to sign. I work. It's a project of 10 lifetimes, 1,000 years project. Oh my God, did I do this? Signed up for it. But I look at it like this. When people say, when will Supermind comes? 1,000 years. I say, so good. 1,000 years of service to the divine we have signed up for. It is such a joy. Life after life we will serve him, because now we have signed, he won't leave us. Even if we want, he is not going to leave us. So better, be very careful. Mother used to say very clearly, if you have turned to the divine and said, I want to be yours, and he says yes, then the whole world can't keep you apart. So be careful, After giving one hand to divine, don't know, please, maybe he'll pull too hard. Please hold me. No, he will pull too hard. He will make sure that the other supports go away. That is the story of Draupadi. See how one can learn yoga just through stories. Maybe once you should have just session of stories we used to have earlier. Look at it, what is there? Draupadi, what is the story? Why is she so special? All supports are taken away. What does Draupadi do? She doesn't say, you cheat, cruel monster, you have done this to me, I am in this Kuru Sabha and all the great ones, nobody is willing to help. What have you done to me? Oh monster, she doesn't say anything like that. She says, on the contrary, now there is none to whom I can turn. Lord, thou alone, thou alone. Hey Krishna, hey Govinda, hey Krishna, hey Govinda, hey Krishna, hey Krishna. And the Lord comes. So he plays a game. Let's enjoy the game. Let's not become too serious about doing some yoga like that. It's a game we are playing with the Lord. With the Lord means we are on same side. So when he is on other side also, that's the other secret you discover. He is doing what he has to do on the other side. The truth is he is on, or rather we should make sure that we are on the side of the Lord. That's more important. And then we go through life, yesterday what Vladimir was saying, the soul is a battlefield and a sacrifice. Sri Aurobindo speaks, one of my most favorite passages, the soul of man is a world full of beings. It's a march, it's a battlefield, it's a constant sacrifice. But in this battlefield, in this journey, in this sacrifice, he is with us. And if he is with us, what is Kurukshetra? That is the story of Arjuna, when he chooses the divine vis-a-vis the whole world. This moment will come several times in our lives. We talk about choices and we think this choice, that choice. No, the choice, there is only one choice for a sadhak. The divine, or what will take me toward the divine, what will keep me away from the divine. There is no other convention. All moral, social, religious conventions fall aside. If this takes me closer to the divine, so be it. Mother says that those who have turned to the divine, duty toward the divine is much more important than any other duty. And we see that those who have walked like that, Buddha, I'm sure he must have had debates in his house. It's not that suddenly one night he woke up dramatically and said, I am going out. He must be having a churning. Must have discussed with his wife. She must have told him, you know what? It's too premature. Siddhartha, my loved one, look at your child, 5-year-old. Please wait for another 20 years. Then you walk. But what Buddha does, because that angst inside all goes into the bonfire and Buddha walks. That is his karma yoga. Because he has to discover, he's pained by the suffering of all around. So this is the choice that we face every day. On one side, there are actions, feelings, thoughts that bring us closer to the divine, and there are actions, feelings, thoughts which take us away from the divine. There is no other criteria. And this we have to see with sincerity of our own being. Nobody else can tell us, because for each one, it would be different depending on the stage of evolution. And a time comes when, well, everything has to go into the bonfire. It's a preparation. So be sure one day he is going to snatch everything. Do it happily. Because when he snatches everything, then we are ready to receive everything. Sri Aurobindo says in one of the letters, he who gives himself, they who ask from the divine gives them what they ask for. But they who give themselves to the divine gives them not only what they would have needed or asked for, but much more. He gives himself. This is the yagna. This is the final ahuti in that Om, Aham, Ahankara, Aham Kamna, Aham, all this I call myself, my name and fame, Swaha. Swaha is the purifying energy of Agni. So it's not that he snatches away. He purifies it and if necessary gives it back to us. How? He says, now this is a gift from me. Don't forget, it's no more you. It's a gift. That is how the divine does. The two small stories with which I'll stop. Both inspiring. Yes, it's just about time. So in one of the stories, the lady herself told me when she was a little child and she came with her parents and father died, then mother then wanted to give everything to the divine mother, physical mother. So she came with all her ornaments and everything, rich Bengali family, and she said, Mother, you take everything. You know how they have walked that path. Mother says, no, my child, you keep it with you. No, mother, you take it. I want to keep anything with me. You are there. Do I need anything? Then you see what mother says. First she tells her, your daughter is growing up. She will need things. You may need the money. Mother, you are there. And look, mother's far-sightedness. She says, yes, my child, I am there. But tomorrow, if it is somebody else to whom you have to ask, will you be able to ask? She says, no, mother. Now, she has self-respect. I won't ask anybody. You, I can ask. But this is, that's why I am telling you, you keep it as if I am giving you. Look the difference. You keep it, now I am giving you. And there were so many instances where the mother gave back something, said, I am giving you now. It's a lesson. And the second story with which we'll close is Charu Chandra Datta. He was in freedom struggle and they used to call Sri Aurobindo as chief and so many stories of him. But when Sri Aurobindo withdrew into Pondicherry, he got, like many others, got perplexed, annoyed, confused. He burnt away many of the letters or whatever Sri Aurobindo had written to him as, But he had kept with him the Gita which Sri Aurobindo had given him. Sri Aurobindo used to read a Gita with his annotations and all this, which he had given to Charu Chandra Datta. He had very interesting experiences. Actually, he saw Sri Krishna in Sri Aurobindo and Sri Aurobindo in his idol of Sri Krishna. Now that's going into, it's an interesting story. Many other, Rishabh Chand's story. Now the biography is not available. in the ashram, I am told. So when he comes to the ashram, he is feeling a lot of pain and anguish inside. What did I do? He landed up, there is a whole story, wonderful story, and just one bit of that story is that he is angry, he doesn't want to go. Why? Because Sri Aurobindo has withdrawn, and his wife keeps telling him, you are a stupid fellow, you must go there. Your anguish will get peace only when you go to Sri Aurobindo. And he says, no, I will not go. So Dilip Kumar Roy asked Sri Aurobindo, there is this Charu Chandra, do you know him? By the way, Sri Aurobindo says, oh Charu, of course, he is one of those rare men with whom I have fought battles of the ages. In this life, I couldn't call him my own preoccupations. At the same time, I had to do work of a different kind. When Dilip Kumar Roy says, Chief thinks like this of you, he says, really? He remembers me? He knows me? Battle of the ages? He says, I am going to go. So he rushes. Then many things happen on the way, and then when he comes, he meets Sri Aurobindo. When he meets mother, first he has mother, foreign lady. I can't bow down, freedom struggle. So he tells Sri Aurobindo, everything is fine, Chief. Don't ask me to touch the feet of that European lady. Are you go, why you can't? Now he has to give an excuse. He says, you know what, I have a back problem. I can't bow down. So Sri Aurobindo, sense of humor, divine. Oh, is that a problem? That's a small issue. Mother will stand a few steps ahead, above. You don't need to bow down like that, but you can bow down like that. He can't disobey the chief, so he goes. And as he is standing in the queue, he is having all these thoughts. I can't do this. All these disciples bowing down. What is this? Indians have to now, look for a European guru. All these going on inside. He said, I'll go, and you see how the divine looks for that honesty. He said, I'll go there, I'll say, Mother, I can't fall in line with your disciples. So I am going back. Thank you so much. You have been very kind and gracious enough to allow me to come near. But I can't do all this. He's thinking all that. But when he goes near, he says, this is European, Indian. This is far beyond anything I can imagine. He falls at her feet. When he comes back, he knows that, these are our slots. So next day when he meets the mother, he gives the Gita. He says, Mother, Sri Aurobindo had given this to me. This is the only thing I have of Sri Aurobindo, but I think I don't deserve after all that I did and thought. And so you please give it back to the Lord. So mother takes it, gives back. Next day she calls Charu. She says, Sri Aurobindo has said, give back this Gita to Charu. Tell him, I gave it to him once. Now I am giving it to him again. Look at the meaning of that. This is how we have to lead our life. This is yoga. And then leave it to time to unfold. We don't know how things are. Time's unforeseen accidents, God's random plan. So trust His wisdom. And I'll close with these lines of Savitri, among my favorite. Plenty of lines are simply superb. One who has made this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are His steps upon the way. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. He works through our sin, our sorrows and our tears. 2 days back I was recounting them, but look at it. It's not only when I am sitting cross-legged in closed eyes, and He is working when I am thinking that I am sinning. You say, oh, this is the time to catch hold of this darkness inside him. This is the true meaning of confessional. Confessional is not before a priest. But confessional means, Lord, this is in me, there I am, help me. Even when we are spiraling down, Lord, that's enough. He enters into the raging fires of hell to pull us out. Not only He pulls us out, in the process, enters into the darkness, and curtained by the darkness does His work. Clears, does a clearing. That's how He works, through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. And then the few lines which I recounted the other day, it ends with, after we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. It is not something we have to ask. It is our inborn right, but there is a condition. It is His world. After we have served this great divided world, it is in a state of division. It must move towards unity, harmony, beauty of the future. And we must do our bit, whatever role in little way. It may be a home, it may be just within me, it may be in my surroundings, doesn't matter. It's not about big or small, but to do our bit. And when we have done it, He knows when the role we had to play is over. Then what happens? We may continue playing, but God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. A date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown, an anniversary of our birth sublime. These calm and distant might shall act, and all that now is not or far shall draw near to us. They will act one day, these higher states of consciousness, they will come, the great gods. Our soul shall justify its checkered walk. Look at the line. Checkered walk, black and white like chessboard. There is a meaning behind it. Our souls shall justify its checkered walk. All shall come near, that now is not or far. Thank you.